we note that when we talk about audit quality, I always reference that that is, in my opinion, based on the Part 1A deficiencies. There are other measures that can be used, but we think deficiency rates are a good way to measure audit quality because our inspectors are in there actually looking at the work that was done by auditors.
Thank you. I would like to take more time, but I think the chair would be very mad at me, so I yield back, and I now recognize a gentleman from Iowa, Mr. Nunn, for 5 minutes.
I always appreciate a good chair who is so fair. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. As I highlighted during the appropriations amendment process with Chairman Wagner, the Public Accounting Oversight Board, or PCAOB, arguably has gone completely rogue under Chairman Gensler by firing all of the previous chairs and replacing them with a board at the entire direction primarily of 2 senators, those of Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. A recent proposal from earlier this year, Chair Williams, who's with us today, was the newly replaced board lead, imposed an obligation on auditors to detect and evaluate the companies non-compliant with any law or regulation that, and I quote here, could reasonably have a material effect on a financial statement. Chair Williams, I would like to discuss with you today the PCAOB under your leadership and specifically non-compliant laws and regulations. I've heard from several of the small public firms in my district that this proposal could triple their annual costs. Roughly $55 billion a year in total, with some even estimating over $80 billion with a B. Given these businesses are already subject to a highly complex and technical laws and regulations, both at the federal and the state level, the vagueness and the complex language in your proposals has clearly created ambiguity that will only lead to adverse outcomes for U.S. business and increase the legal compliance costs that they're incurring. So, I want to begin with this. Chair Williams, how does the board intend to enhance audit quality, as you stated in the Wall Street Journal op-ed from this summer, while at the same time reshaping the role of auditors and extending their responsibility beyond financial statement audits?
Thank you for that question. So the non-compliance with laws and regulations rule right now is just a proposal, and we are very much looking forward to public comments, and we've received a number of comments, and we're going to be holding a public roundtable.
Chair. I appreciate that. So let's go deeper then, because now you're asking for feedback. And so despite these complex and specialized nature of your agency's work, is it correct that the boards only comprise currently 2 CPAs?
That is correct. Under Sarbanes-Oxley, Congress and its wisdom
determined. And of those 2 CPAs, is it also correct that they voted against this?
That is correct.
Roughly 80% of the firms who commented upon your rules are against this. Is that correct?
We have received a number of comments, both in favor of the proposal and against it.
20% in favor, 80% opposed.
I have not done that calculation.
I would hope that you would, because now you're asking people to come together for a roundtable. Why did you not do these roundtables prior to writing this rule?
We did. For the past 19 years, we have received feedback from stakeholders on noncompliance in laws and regulations, and we also have a majority of our staff as CPAs, and they provided the recommendation on NOCLAR that the board voted on.
I appreciate that, Madam Chairman, but at the end of the day, your board, the only 2 CPAs on there, are opposed to this. You're now doing roundtables because Chairman Wagner asked you about feedback, and so you've started this new process of sitting people around the table. Yes, we've always received feedback. This is not new. But having to do the roundtable is a direct reflection of the fact that you're having a full-scale rebellion on your rules coming forward. Wouldn't you press other members of the board? Let's have a conversation here on this. You and the other members of the board decided to press forward when the real accountants in the room told you this is wrong. Why did you make that decision?
So we received a proposal and a recommendation from the CPAs on our staff, and the majority of our staff are CPAs. Many of them have been working with this standard for many years and have seen ways that it needs to be improved, in addition to the fact that our stakeholder groups, our advisory groups, have for the past 19 years raised issues with regard to the current standard. And so we're just trying to be responsive to feedback, because our ultimate goal is to make sure that we get the standard right for the protection of investors.
Chairman Williams, I think that you need to start listening then to your auditors who are telling you that this needs reform. It is costing all of us more money at our local and small business levels. So let's get one thing straight. Auditors are not attorneys, nor should they have to be. 2, by no means should they be expected to function as law enforcement agents in many of the ways that you're asking them to do. This proposal, Mr. Chair, diverts auditors' attention and resources away from the rigorous evaluating of financial statements, which serve as the backbone for our capital markets across everyone's district and their constituencies and forces them to become much more a compliance attorney and ultimately enforcer. Please listen to your auditors. Please listen to the more than 80% of businesses and community members who have come back and asked you to change these rules before you put them into impact. With that, Mr. Chair, I yield back the remainder of my time.
Gentleman yields back. Chair now recognizes a gentleman from New York, Mr. Lawler, for 5 minutes.